Once you finish your drum beat, the next step in composing your dance music track is to make a bass line. So we're going to add a new track by pressing the Add Track button, and then we're going to choose Instrument to use the virtual instrument function in Bandlab. You'll then see that your instrument keyboard appears at the button. Now you can hear what the instrument sounds like by clicking on the keys. You can also see that there is a letter next to them which corresponds to the keyboard keys. So if I were to press the letter Z on my computer keyboard, I can play the keyboard using my computer keyboard. Those in school will be able to do it using the pianos that are attached to the computers as well, but if you're working at home, you can use your computer keyboard to play in this keyboard sound. You can also change the octave, which makes it higher or lower. If you press minus, you can play some really low notes. If you press plus, you can get all the way up to the top and play some really higher notes, even when you've only got a small computer keyboard in front of you. So the actual sound that you're listening to is selected on the side here. At the moment, we've got a grand piano, but we're now going to choose some bass parts. There is a bass section, but this is usually bass guitars that are really good for use in rock music, pop music and stuff like that. We're making dance music, so we're going to use the synth bass section, which gives you some electronic synthesizer bass sounds. Click synth bass, and then when you press the keys, you'll hopefully hear some synthesizer bass sounds. And you can look through the menu. This one's called Deep House. If you look through the menu, you'll see lots and lots of different bass sounds, and they all sound a bit different. You can have from kind of more active bass lines with lots of stuff going on to simpler bass lines as well. So have a look through and see what you like the sound of. See what sounds good. See what you think sounds good and what's going to fit with your track. When you found one, make sure you're playing this one low on the keyboard. I'm going to change my octave to -1. If you're using a piano keyboard, make sure you're playing on the far left-hand side, because this is the bass. We want it to be really low. So when you found a sound you like, you're then going to come up with a riff, which means a short pattern that you like the sound of, which is going to repeat over and over again. So find some sounds that you like, and then have a play around on the keys and find a couple of notes that you think could work well in a repeated patterns. If you're not sure what notes to try using just the white note as a good starting point. You can also try using the blues scale that we learned last term, or you can try using a pentatonic scale, which is printed out in your booklets, which are some good ways to find notes that are going to work best for you. Ultimately, you're going to find a couple of notes in a repeating pattern that you think could make a really catchy bass line. So maybe something like a There you go, I've just done a really simple one using just 3 notes there. The next step is to try playing it along with your drum beat and see if you can make it fit. So I'm going to just make my drum beat loop for a little bit longer by going to the top right hand corner, dragging it out, and then press play to see what it sounds like. Here we go. Now I need to make sure my instrument track is selected so I can play my keyboard. Then let's try playing that bass line. Here we go. Okay, sorry, let's try that again. Here we go. I think that could work. So I'm going to have a go with that as my main bassline sound, and when I've found something that I think could work as the bass part of my song, I'm going to press start recording. Again, basslines work the best when they're simple and they're short. A simple repeated pattern is much better than something long and complicated. So I'm going to press record, and then I'm just going to play my bassline once. It's going to count me in with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to play it once. Here we go. There we go, and that's it. So when you've recorded it once, you can see the track drawn on here, and you can double click on it to actually see the notes in this part. Now when we play things in, as we are human beings and not robots, we always make tiny little timing errors. It could always be a tiny bit better, and dance music usually has the timing absolutely perfect because a computer can do that. So here's how you do it. Select all your notes by dragging a box around them, like this, and then press the Quantize button just in this menu on the left hand side. That drags all the notes onto the beat, so you've got a really solid sense of timing. Let's press play and have a listen to how that sounds. In fact, before I do, I'm going to loop my bass line by going to the top right hand corner and clicking and dragging to loop my bass parts. There we go. So I've got it happening over and over again. The good thing about my bass line is that it fits exactly within within 2 bars. Having a bass line that lasts either 1 bar or 2 bar works really well. If it kind of fits like this and it goes just over the bar line, then it's going to find itself going out of time. So make sure that from the bottom left and right hand corners you edit your bass line so it fits exactly between some of the numbers on the screen. Good ones are 1 and 3. That'll work really well as a 2 bar loop, or like this as a 1 bar loop, but make sure you use those numbers on the top to align it. Now let's loop it and have a little listen. Here we go. There you go, very simple, but it's used, it's repeating properly with my drum beat. Now, once you've recorded it, you can actually still play around with the different sounds by going to the instrument menu on the left-hand side here and looking at the different instruments that you've got, and then play the part you've already recorded on these instruments. Let's have a listen. So that one doesn't work quite as well with that different part. I think that one works better with held down notes. Let's try one more. Let's go for this one here. There we go, and you can sort of play around and decide what you think sounds best. What you're aiming for is a looping bass line that works really well with your drum beat and your track. As an extension, if you finish that, you can try adding in another bass line. Simply on your keyboard, work out a different pattern of notes, different to what you've done before, come up with a repeating pattern, record it in again, and this could make a B section of your song where you have a different bass line that could go from your original bass line, this one here, the A section. It could then go into the B section, play a new bass line for a little while before coming back to the A section. So as an extension, try composing a new bass line.